We're all on a journey through this life, and that journey can be quite difficult. It can be extremely hard when we have more questions than answers, especially when it comes to our faith in God. Even though we're on a journey of life, we don't have to do it alone. Join us for the... Well, welcome back to the Journey Podcast, Journey Never Alone. I'm Joe Bevan, and I'm a pastor here in Rosebush, Michigan.
And my name is Ray Francis. I'm a pastor in Barwell United Methodist Church here in Barwell, Michigan.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys with us today. What are we going to talk about today, Ray?
We're going to talk about big concept, the idea that when we look at it, Christianity requires some work. You can't just, I know. They're thinking like, oh no, this is going to be one of those things. But the scripture I was looking at comes to us out of Matthew. Okay. Matthew 7 and 8, which reads, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened unto you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be opened. And I was wondering if we talk a little bit about, for our folks here, that whole idea of it's not a passive endeavor. Being a Christian is not passive. I mean, if you want to be, or if you want to follow Jesus, well, those are the kind of things you need to go do. What do you think about that?
Well, I know a lot of people feel like, well, if I become a believer in Jesus, all about me and you, Jesus, that all of a sudden everything is good, and it's all piled upon me, the blessings would come being truckloaded in, right, so to speak.
Good for you, by the way.
But that's really not the case, because it's like any relationship. If you want it in depth and it has to be real, then you have to do the work. You got to go for it. You have to put the energy and the attention and all of that into it, I guess.
So you think that when we're getting the scripture out of Matthew, that when it says, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, it's not talking about gold, it's not talking about diamonds and riches.
Well, I thought he was talking about rubbing the lamp, the genie, hey, I'm ready, Jesus. I got all these wishes piled up here,
Fair enough.
But no, you're right, and I know a lot of people take that perspective that it's just given to you, so to speak. Your relationship and all of the promises that God has for us and the blessings that He has for us. But really, you got to do the work to seek and to find Him, and that takes work. It takes intent. That takes the purposeful entanglements almost.
The relationship building. It takes an investment. And we talk about this idea of being a follower of Jesus is being in a relationship. Jesus has done a lot of the work. He has died. Everything He has done for us. And as we look at it, we have a covenant. But we don't always know about the covenant. Sometimes we need to look, and sometimes we need to ask. Sometimes we need to seek. We need to knock. We need to be actively engaged in our own faith, to be looking to finding out about Jesus, to be looking at finding out about scriptures, to be looking to finding out about faith, about grace, whether we're talking about prevenient or whether we're talking about justified, sanctified, anything else. We need to be the ones who are looking at doing those kinds of things. It's just not going to be set there for us, because if it's put there, we don't value it. If we don't invest in it, we don't value it, which is something that my grandfather taught me a long time ago.
That's a wonderful point to make, that when you are gifted things, you just receive. We don't always appreciate it. We don't always, see the value in things. But when you think about it, here's God, and God promises us in Scripture that if you truly want to know Him, you truly seek Him, then you'll find Him. But you have to, like you said, do the work. You have to make the investment in the relationship. We live in a world, I think, so much today that, we feel entitled to things. I'm entitled to this. I'm entitled to all that. I've self-judged myself, and I'm worthy of it, or whatever. And yet here it's different, because that scripture you read, it's reminding us that you might think you're all that in a bag of chips, but if you really want to have a relationship with God, then you have to come before Him and seek Him.
It has to be. John Wesley. Since we're a couple of Methodist pastors, a lot of times we fall back into Wesley.
Yeah.
Wesley talks about the ideas of faith being somewhat, or grace being somewhat like the porch of a house. You have the front porch, which is one part of grace, and you can be invited up onto the porch. But to go from the porch to go inside, you have to be the one to open the door. Nobody else can open it for you. And then you have to be the one to step inside. That whole idea of, prevenient, justifying, sanctifying grace, you have to do that. Because if somebody else does it for you, it doesn't mean the same. You don't get out of it what you need to get out of it to build that relationship, is what I think.
I like that. And that's a great reminder, too, that really the relationship with God that He offers here, that we have to do our part for, is so well worth it. It's so well worth it. And it's like in life, you want to, be successful in your business, you got to work. You want to, have a good relationship with your family and extended family members. No, you got to do the work. You've got to be willing to invest. And I think that's the word I would tell everybody today, is put that one on your mirror in your bathroom. When you see it first thing in the morning, invest.
Perfect. It's that whole idea of investing, as you say, that whole idea of putting in the work, doing those kind of things. If, as we look at the title of our podcast, The Journey, Never Alone, as we look at it, that's the part about being in that relationship. As we are on that journey, we are never alone.
Mm-hmm.
We need, though, to cultivate and build and do the things connected to that relationship.
Yeah.
Read scripture, to do the things like be in prayer, to be effective disciples, to be kind, to love one another, to do all those things. Those are the things that we're asked to be accountable to.
Yeah. When in my own walk of faith, my own journey, so to speak, I remember when I first got serious about faith, I expected it to be given. You know what I mean? I expected that, okay, I think there's something out there, okay, so it's all about me and you, Jesus, right? So, and I expected for things to simply be turned over to me or given to me or placed inside of me or whatever. It wasn't until later that I realized that when you are willing to invest, or you're willing to do some of the work, you're willing to, take your calendar and make a few changes so you have time to do this, what you receive back is so much more than what you put into it.
Yeah.
And I really don't have the words to explain that to our listeners, that the value that you receive back in that relationship by pursuing God with your heart is so much more meaningful than what you ever poured into it.
And if you're just now on that journey yourself and you're wondering and looking, you're going to find that out over time. But to do that, you're going to have to invest in your relationship with Jesus. You're going to need to expand it. You're going to need to be actively engaged in doing those kind of things, because it's just not going to work if you just sit there.
No.
Doesn't work.
No, it's like Yeah, we don't want to go down that road here.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and this is a little bit of a short one today, but hey, we'll be back next week, and I want to encourage you to share this with others and post it on your timelines or whatever you can do to kind of promote this a little bit. What Ray and I are doing here is simply trying to put a realistic modern view of what it means to look at the Christian faith and really, how do I want to say this, Ray? Really not put it in anybody's face. We want things to be relative. We want you to find the meaning in the real relationship with God, with Christ.
But we want them to be the ones looking and doing.
Right.
Here's our perspective.
Right.
You need to go do the kinds of things to build that relationship, to seek Jesus out. And you can always catch up with us on the Tough Questions for God. You can send an email or leave a message. You can do the same through Apple Podcasts and other different venues. So
our friends, we're here for you. We both, Ray and I think I can speak for both of us. We have a deep relationship with God, and it's extremely meaningful. It's something that I would never, ever want to be without. And we want you to feel and to understand and to appreciate the same relationship that God has offered to you. It's there for you. You just have to open the door.
Fair enough. And if you have questions, post them on the website or on the Tough Questions for God site, and we'll maybe have a podcast about your questions.
Hey, that sounds good.
Talk about whatever you all want.
Yep. Thanks, and God bless, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
We're all on a journey through this life, and that journey can be quite difficult. It can be extremely hard when we have more questions than answers, especially when it comes to our faith in God. Even though we're on a journey of life, we don't have to do it alone. Join us for the podcast, The Journey, posted fresh on all popular podcast platforms every Sunday morning. Or you can go to the toughquestionsforgod.org website. Thanks, and we'll see you then.